As you know, every new Egyptian president would usually hold at the beginning of his term a conference to try to solve the economic problems. This was no exception at all. But unlike previous times, this was held after 8 years of President Sisi's rule. And it comes in October when we began to hear that there is an imminent agreement with the IMF. And so this agreement with the IMF would require Egyptian economy change many things, including free flotation of the Egyptian pound and also more power to the private sector by making the government, which means the military, withdraw from the economy. And so they needed a legitimate cover and a national conference where everybody would be there, especially the government and the pro-government people, and they would make statements that in the end would serve and give the cover for the agreement with IMF. Remember, at this time, we have also a parallel conference going on, the political national dialogue, which doesn't get the same media coverage like the economic conference that lasted 3 days. The political dialogue conference has not ended, and we don't see what is happening. There is no air coverage. But will these recommendations coming out of this conference be applied or not? Previous conferences made recommendations, but they were never applied. It was easier said than done. But this time, President Sisi promised that all the recommendations coming from this conference, and as I mentioned, those recommendations are similar to what the IMF wants, will be immediately applied. And so most likely, because they need the agreement with IMF, many of those items will be applied, but some of them may be slower than others going into force.
During his participation in the conference, Egyptian economist and former Minister of Investment Ziad Bahauddin said Egypt needs to empower the private sector to attract more investors who would contribute to the country's GDP and economic activity. The IMF has been asking the Egyptian government to do so for years. Would that be adopted now?
We have the official recommendations and it has been adopted on paper, but the application is easier said than done. Why? There are many internal and external vested interests that may obstruct the application. And it's not that easy that you can change the economy from one direction to the other overnight. It takes time and it takes a lot of arms twisting until you get what you want. And so this remains to be seen. We cannot say that this will be applied. We just have to wait and see how much will be applied. Is it fast? Is it big? Is it slow? Time will tell where we're going.
The Egyptian-American global economist Mohamed said in a recorded message aired during the conference that the ongoing global economic challenges has been affecting emerging and developing markets and that these challenges require a more sustainable and inclusive economic growth and a more resilient financial system rather than the artificial finances provided through the central banks. What went wrong with the Egyptian financial policies?
Priorities were not given to obtaining foreign currency from sectors like tourism. They went after what is called hot funds and projects that would make yields after a very long period of time. This, along with the corona pandemic, the Ukrainian conflict, the rise of interest on the US dollar, led to the flight of those important hot funds. This caused, of course, a shortage in foreign currency in a country that imports more than 60% of its food and production requirement.